This is Jack, and I'm continuing. So Anu realized that his forefathers actually played with creation. They were the planet of creation, and he couldn't believe that he hadn't known this ever. All he knew was he needed gold to exist. That was his existence. That was his life. That's what everything of the Anunnaki consisted of. And he went, well, I must still have my forefathers' genes, so let me play with creation. And that's where he started playing more intricately with the design of the human physical vessel. Okay? Now his forefathers had already played with it, but not yet intricately enough. So in the book of Ani, there were already designs for physical forms, for manifestations, because the race had played with manifestation, but they never understood exactly how to manifest it in the form of matter. And here Anu realized, but the Atlanteans had the answer all the time. So all he requires to do is manifest this form, answer it, then it's done. So now you have to look at an interesting thing. Where shall I start explaining this? Now I'm looking at the organs of the physical human form. Okay, the shape itself was designed fine. That's where the idea comes from that people were ape people, ape men. That's how the original form was designed. Yes, because it was very how can I say, easy to kind of do work what is necessary to be done to get gold out of earth. That was now the primary plan. So Anu, Enki, and Lil manifested and worked together to form this shape, which is the ape shape, which people in this world are aware of. But now to remember, organs in itself did not yet exist then. Organs in its design was only specifically designed in that way because of the systems that were going to be placed in the human form. That was when the enslavement of man started. But let's first get to where they manifested the physical form. It was exactly like the ape people, but there weren't like there was a structure, which is the skeleton. Skeleton was there, but it was you don't have, for instance, you know, when you look at a skeleton and you have the place for its eyes and things, and you have a place for its brain. That wasn't there. In other words, the brain itself wasn't there. It was just a physical bone form to be able to keep the vessel in structure, in place. That's of course common sense. You require something like that. Okay, now you're wondering probably where the bone itself comes from. The bone itself was also placed as they acquired another form of a gravitation. So in other words, what I'm saying here is the following. The physical human form was designed exactly as Earth was placed. So the bone was was like the core of the Earth. Okay? The form itself around it, that which is around it would be the Earth. And then the gravitation of that is what keeps the physical human form like it is now, so that you don't go and drift apart in little sound molecules. You know, that would just be quite hilarious, actually. What happens in the dimension. So in terms of what is actually the difference between human beings in manifested form and dimensional beings, is that we don't exist in a physical human body in gravitational matter. That's all. Your bone, your skeleton isn't just a skeleton. It is that which actually manifests you on this earth, gravitationally wise. In other words, the Earth's core is connected to the skeleton, okay, which connects to your entire physical human form, and it's that which actually keeps you manifested here in this world. Not just the Earth's core. The Earth's core is connected to your skeleton in your physical human form. Obviously, because how else would they keep the people grounded, or the physical form, a vessel, grounded on this earth? I mean, they tried it. That's why they first didn't have a skeleton. They just manifested the form, which is almost the ape form. Just formed. And it didn't work because it floated, like, to a certain extent. And it started going, floating all apart, and then when every time they had that form going, it would start floating away and like disintegrating when they placed it in this world. They went, what the hell? Okay, that's not working. So then the Atlanteans came and they said, listen, you need something inside it to ground it, the physical form, or the form, onto this earth plane. That's where that connector comes. And that's what they did. So that's where the skeleton comes from. So now they've got the skeleton. Now the skeleton looked a bit different. It was that ape-shaped form, so it was quite big, like walking like that. And the eyes, they had the eyes, of course, but they didn't have the eyes to a certain extent, because they thought, we just have to walk in, our eyes will be the eyes, and that's it. Nope, didn't work. They tried to get into this form, but they couldn't manifest in this form. They were still separate. And they still saw interdimensionally, but they weren't manifested here. And they went, oh, shit, what now? And so, who was it? It was, again, the Atlanteans that suggested, they were quite commonsensical in their expression. They said, fine, if you can't go into that, you may maybe have to design a form, a vessel in its completeness, in its totality. That when you walk into it, you become that which powers it. Okay. So I'll continue in my next interview. Thanks.